sorry, I had my YouTube playing. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time for the Wrestling Inc. AEW Dynamite after show, and have we got a show for you. MJF has his first challenger, Bryan Danielson calling his shot in the Owen Hart tournament, and Swerve Strickland defends the AEW championship. But before we get into all of that, allow me to introduce the crew. I'm Jack Farmer, being joined by Lie, Cheat, Steal, George Hermoza, and No Hair, Jimmy Korderas.
Well, don't care.
Jimmy, how you doing, Jimmy?
It's been a tough couple of days. I've been having to deal with yeet flies for the last couple of days, and it's been driving me crazy.
Yeah. You know, they're like bed bugs. Once you get a yeet fly, it's impossible to get rid of them.
Yeah. But I did. We talked about merchandise the other day, some awesome merchandise.
Yeah.
I found something that I didn't remember I had. Maybe I need this more often.
Oh, that's really cool.
WrestleMania 22 alarm clock.
That is a really cool piece of memorabilia.
Yeah.
I would wager there's not many people who have those.
Yeah. I think they gave, if I remember correctly, they gave them to us to make sure we made call.
They should have given to the guys when they were in the ring, so they kept their time. But George Hermoza reading a little Lie, Cheat, Steal. Eddie Guerrero. I saw a lot of Eddie Guerrero love on the timeline today. How are you doing today, George?
I'm doing good, but what I really want to know is how many T-shirts did you end up selling after I put over that shirt a couple weeks ago?
Well, I don't like to give away numbers, but let's just say, I was going to say they're going like hotcakes, but you know what? They're better than that. They're going like the true crown jewel of breakfast, French toast. That's how they're selling.
It depends from where, because not all French toasts are made the same, but also not all pancakes are made the same either.
Listen, this is what I get angry about. But I let everything go in pro wrestling. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I don't get mad about it. I get mad about this. Pancakes are simply a syrup delivery service. No one likes the pancake. They like the syrup.
Although I will say, and I want to ask Jimmy something real quick, because you know, obviously you made the towns. Waffle House, thumbs up or thumbs down?
Only for me, and I know I'm going to get a lot of heat for this one. Thumbs up, only because you are desperate last minute, so you can drive in and just wolf something down fast. It doesn't matter. It's like you said. Smother it with syrup, it'll go down easy. You can deal with it. Other than that, no thank you.
No thank you. That is the right answer.
If you don't enjoy it without getting your teeth getting knocked down your throat, that's the issue.
Well, that's why you need all that maple syrup to make them soft enough so you can chew them.
And
I mean, I was gonna say there's a lot of opinions out there, but you saying it's no good is the right one.
Yeah.
Interesting. Everyone, let us know your Waffle House hot takes. Beer Money says Waffle House where you can still smoke inside. Rest goes to Waffle House. No fight scene.
The smoke in the Waffle House is actually coming from the kitchen, so you just got
to. Armando talking about a great cornmeal pancake lathered in butter. See, you want the butter. You're not looking. No one's excited about the pancake. You're excited about what's on top of it. That's why I say I'll take a waffle. I'll take a French toast. Beer Money, waffles, French toast, or pancakes. Waffles or French toast.
Depends from where.
Yeah. It depends on who makes it. My wife makes the best French toast ever. And you use Quebec maple syrup. Original, authentic Quebec maple syrup. Can't beat it.
Well, Canada's greatest export, that syrup, of course. I mean, that makes everything better. Here's my thing. I want everyone to go make themselves a waffle, a French toast, and a pancake, and eat each of them with nothing on it, and tell me which one is the easiest to eat. You'll get halfway through the pancake and be like, oh, okay, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
So I'm upset about this.
I can eat a waffle like I eat toast.
Yes. Yeah, I can't do waffles are great.
Well, that's because they make waffles now. You can throw them in the toaster. It's almost like a Pop-Tart without the tart.
Just the pop.
Just the pop.
I'm a big Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles fan. So I don't know if they exist outside of California, but it's a big thing out in LA. Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles.
It is pretty good, Roscoe's, but they're not a sponsor, so
bleep that out.
No more. Let's talk about some pro wrestling for a little bit. We got some news here. AEW's Jon Moxley to defend the IWGP World Title in a Lumberjack Deathmatch over in New Japan Pro Wrestling. George, this is something that, it's funny. We talked about the Forbidden Door a few years ago when it first opened, and then we kind of made fun of it and what it could be or whatever. But you look across pro wrestling, really now, it's crazy how much we're seeing wrestlers in different companies and actually being champions of other companies. And you're seeing that obviously in WWE, NXT, TNA now, New Japan. We'll talk about CMLL later. It's kind of crazy that we're talking about this when you think about it compared to the old days.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I clamored for a lot. There was always that fantasy booking issue of PWI every couple months with WWF versus WCW fantasy warfare. Now we're kind of seeing it in real time, which is always going to be pretty cool. I'm never going to bash the interpromotional when it's actually interpromotional, not this, hey, we got a bunch of WCW guys wrestling on Monday Night Raw every week, when it's like, oh no, you have a WWE contract, so it doesn't really count. Here you have legit AEW contracted wrestlers going up against legit New Japan Pro Wrestling contracted wrestlers. Anytime that happens, when it's legit wrestling companies going up against each other, it's always going to be a thumbs up in my eyes.
Yeah, Jimmy, this is a big championship. It's a historic championship. I know we've had some issues with the championship and how it's presented on AEW. What are your thoughts just on the idea of someone who's contracted to one company playing that big of a role in another company?
No, I like the idea. I like the concept. And, you can nitpick and say, well, they have a working relationship, so it's not really a forbidden door. I get that. You know what I mean? We're a little more savvy nowadays because we all read the internet. But at the same time, it's an interesting concept where you have guys from different companies. That was something we dreamed about back in the day, especially during the Monday Night Wars when WCW and WWF were going head to head. You were saying, can you imagine if the Stinger went up against a Stone Cold Steve Austin or somebody like this, and you would go, can you imagine if so-and-so would face so-and-so? And it was a dream booking. This is a little different because it does cater a little bit more to that hardcore niche audience, but at the same time, you make different matchups, and that can be exciting, especially when you got someone like a Jon Moxley who does a good job at representing that title here in North America for the North American fans to actually gravitate towards. I don't know if in Japan he's as well respected, but at the same time here he's at least introducing that championship to a different audience that may not otherwise be watching it.
George, Jimmy mentioned that it's a hardcore niche audience, and I think that I don't disagree. I think you need to be pretty in depth with pro wrestling to know both brands. Is it possible to make something like wrestling where there are so many brands and so many companies and so many wrestlers and so much TV time, something that is broad strokes, general audience that can understand a forbidden door concept? Or is that something that's just never going to take to a wide audience?
I think it can be taken to a wide audience. I mean, I guess I define wide. Because I feel like there is going to be an interest in that kind of interpromotional, whether it's on a smaller scale, and they can do it on a global scale, but that's not what they're going for. I mean, I always look at Invasion, the WWF Invasion pay-per-view from back in 2001. I'm sure you guys know, maybe you guys don't know, if anybody else doesn't know, the number one highest buy rate in the history of the WWE, WWF, that's not WrestleMania, is the Invasion pay-per-view, which tells me there was a market for it, higher than Rumble, higher than any SummerSlams, higher than I'm sure a lot of other WrestleManias as well. But the fact that there was that much interest in it shows me that there is a market for that. And then, we saw what happened after that. That's for a different podcast. But I really think there is a way to do this that can maybe market to the mass market.
Yeah, I really quickly on that, on your point, George, I get exactly what you're saying, but there was a different time where people were kind of buying in and were questioning, is this a legit invasion or not? They didn't know what was going on. They weren't exactly sure 100%. Like nowadays, everybody thinks they know. So that you're right. It does make it harder. It can be done if done in the right way and keeping everything as close to keeping it under your hat as possible. It can be done. It's just that, you got to connect those dots in the right way for the audience to really buy into it.
I think it doesn't help either that everything seems like it's such a rush, right? Where like, maybe let it play out a little bit more, give me a little bit more anticipation, make it feel more special that maybe John Moxley is wrestling for New Japan, maybe more special the fact that maybe some of these CMLL guys are wrestling for Dynamite. They're kind of in a lot of these throwaway matches when maybe they should be a little bit more special. Maybe that's a secret. Easier said than done, don't get me wrong, but that's part of the magic. And like something with such a big reward shouldn't be such a quick, easy solution. There should be like a collaborative effort with maybe a lot of other companies and maybe just sitting down and really taking the time to really map everything out.
Yeah, I think where the biggest hang up I would see for it is AEW has 5 hours of TV on its own. And then you think WWE has 5 hours of TV or 6 hours of TV. Then if you're going to keep up, if you're going to make up TNA as well, and if you're going to also but then if I am following New Japan or CMML, I mean, at some point, there's no way you can casually be watching that much programming of anything. So
if you want to stay married, that is
right. I mean, that's at some point you're just the consumption of time is too much. That's why I don't know. It's going to be tricky to get a true crossover of everybody is interested in all of these people. But I don't know. I'm not the one booking. Maybe someone has a way to do it. We'll have to see how it works out. I will say though, last thing on the invasion angle or that invasion show, I think there's you got to put a little asterisk to it as well because Lance Storm was on that show, and so of course it sold out like crazy. Come on, who didn't want to see that show? But let's move on to some news about Ricky Starks. Everyone loves Ricky Starks, so it's always good to talk about him. In an interview, Tony Khan with Shaq Wrestling said, I think Ricky Starks is tremendous. I'd love to get him involved and back in AEW anytime. He's been a huge part of what we've done for about 4 out of the 5 years and tons of respect for Rico. Jimmy, this answer led a lot of people to say, well, then why isn't he on TV if you want him on TV so badly? He said that he's not injured. So that's my big thing is maybe he's injured. I want to almost call him Rico. I don't know him like that. So I say Ricky Starks. He says he's available. Tony Khan says he wants him. What's the hang up here? Why do you think we're not seeing him, or what could be going on here?
I think there's a little bit of a little bit of creative has nothing for you at the time. And that's a big problem in AEW with a lot of talent. They just have way too much talent to try and get them on television in any way, shape, or form. And at the same time, I don't think it was when he was taken off TV, for lack of a better term, it wasn't under the greatest circumstances because of the situation that led to him being taken away from TV for a short period of time. And then, like everything else, a short time turns into a longer time, and then a longer time. Then you kind of get forgotten about with all that's going on. So then now all of a sudden somebody says, well, what about so-and-so? And it's like, oh my goodness, that's right. We have him under the roster. Why don't we use him? Now we got to try and find a place for him that makes sense. Because you can't just throw him out there and say, oh, here'd be a great match. Ricky Starks versus whoever the case may be. And you go, okay, great match. But why? You need reasons why and stories to bring him back. So maybe they could do a nice little video package for him, telling his story. Listen, I've been sitting on the shelf. I've been waiting for the call. I'm ready to go, coach. You want me back? Tell me what you want. I will do it for you. Or I will do what I need to do to be a star. Something along those lines. Just anything to get him reintroduced to the audience before you bring him back.
I would agree with that. And George, again, a lot of people, there's a lot of assumptions about what may be going on with why Ricky Starks isn't on TV. I never like to make assumptions because it could be a million things that isn't public knowledge. So I don't know. But a lot of people wonder if Ricky Starks has been used properly by AEW, or if he's being used properly by AEW. Again, I never like to assume why things happen because you never know. But I think Ricky Starks is a top of the card, build a company around him kind of guy. I could see him right up there with Swerve Strickland. I could see him right up there with the Will Ospreays, the MJFs. It feels like they're leaving a little money on the table with Ricky Starks, one way or the other. What about you?
So I've talked before on, when we talk about guys like Daniel Garcia, Kyle Fletcher, Lee Moriarty, that all these guys are great wrestlers. They're all great. Like, in no way, shape, or form do these guys not have like a bad wrestling bone in their body. But the difference between somebody like a Ricky Starks can talk. Like, that guy is so good on the mic. So this is one of those instances of, I'm so baffled on why he isn't on TV a lot more, because he has so much more to offer than a lot of other people, and that's mic work. I'm just as puzzled as anyone else. Obviously, there's a lot of rumors out there as far as like, oh, he's just sitting out his contract because he's got another company kind of pretty much waiting in the wings for them. No secret that him and Cody Rhodes are good friends. I think somebody asked Cody one time, like, are you kind of trying to bring people over to WWE in any ways? He's like, dude, no, absolutely not. Everybody's their own person. People, they're their own person. But I honestly, I wish I had a better answer for you, because there's a lot of people, not just Ricky Starks, that are in AEW that I'm very puzzled on why they're not featured a lot more. We saw one vignette like a month ago with Scorpio Sky, and it's like totally forgotten, right? Like, I know Miro has been going through some stuff, but like, if you ask me, or maybe most people, they'd probably say like, oh yeah, Miro, oh yeah, did he get fired or something? Like, you don't want people wondering if people are fired. Like, just find some way to like kind of keep them in the mix. But yeah, that's one thing that I think AEW does need to work on a lot more, is showcasing the talent that need to be showcased.
Yep. And I do want to say, Jay Harris saying, call out Tony's booking incompetence. If it was Vince, you would. I think if you've watched any of the review shows I'm on, I'm pretty consistent with the kind of things I'd say and how hard I go in on different things like booking. And I agree. I think that Ricky Starks there's meat on the bone here. I think he's a superstar. If I was the person who was booking this thing, he would be in the world title program. He'd be one of those guys. I always think of the SmackDown 6 back in the day. So in my mind, I always think of who are the 6 guys that'd be my top 6. And he's always in that list of people. I don't know if there's a contract thing going on and they're waiting to figure that out. I don't know. But if it was me, he would be on TV and he would be featured regularly. So I guess we'll have to see what's going on there. But as we continue on, let's get into the show. I want to give a shout out to everyone who's joining us here today. As always, we've got Mike Martin got here early. I am Error, Joe C. Lurkin, Blue Chew, Jonathan Torres, Kerry Johnson, Armando in the chat, Beer Money, J.R. Smith. Did I say Blue Chew already? Anyways, Joseph Chichi, we got Ebony, Washington, Ken Kreider. We got a bunch of folks. Adonde, Jamie, Jay Harris, Mike Thomas, and Maria, burner account, Jose. But Majestic Marie says, hi, fellas. Love y'all. The weekend for my first commentary gig has arrived. Super nervous.
That's really cool.
No, that's
Majestic,
awesome.
You're going to do great. Don't even worry about it. You're going to be fine. You love wrestling. So just, worst case scenario, say what you see.
Exactly. And speak from the heart.
Yep, exactly. You'll be absolutely fine. But let us know how it goes. Make sure you let us know how it goes afterwards, Marie, and let us know if there's a place where we can see it. And Russell Red says, sorry, Jack, the learning tree is growing on me. Good. I'm glad it's growing on you.
He's the one. He's the one.
No, it's growing on me too. I like
God.
Let's before we get into the show, though, we got a lot to cover. It's going to be a spicy one, I got a feeling. I want to let everyone know that on Sunday, June 9th, join us here on Wrestling Inc. for the NXT Battleground review. That's going to be such a good show, and I know it's going to be a good show because it's going to be Jack Farmer and George Hermoza on there talking about it. George, I'm excited to break down NXT on Sunday. Not tonight, though.
Not tonight. So tune in on Sunday to hear all our thoughts. I'm trying to convince our buddy Glenn Rubenstein to call in with the live reaction maybe for like 5 minutes because I don't want him to take away my TV time. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Hey, we have to let the lurker know, because I just saw the comment that he said I knew about the screw job.
Oh,
you know what? I'll never tell.
Where was? Oh, I wanted to highlight it. Where'd it go?
Yeah.
Burner account.
Burner account. There you go. The
Jimmy
burner
knew
account.
about the screw job.
I'll never tell.
Yeah.
Greatest work in pro wrestling history.
It is one of those mysteries that we'll be talking about forever. I think that what killed WCW. And there's a few others that I'm sure we'll be talking about forever. That I can't think about right now. But
who drove the Hummer? Remember that one, Jack?
Oh,
in WCW.
Come on! I was spellbound by that story for a while. Let's talk about some AEW Dynamite in the chat. Let us know how you feel about what we're chatting about, or what you thought of the show and all that good stuff. But we start with MJF. He comes out, he takes shots at Okada, Swerve, Ospreay. He reminds us who he is and what he's done before Rush comes out and I don't know what he said, but it sounded like he ripped MJF a new one pretty good there. They go back and forth a few times before they start swinging at each other, and it all gets broken up. Jimmy Korderas, the opening start of the show, the promo, the big star. We know the direction he's going. What are your thoughts?
I was waiting for it. I'm glad they opened with this, because I think it was the right call. Everybody's been waiting. It should have, after the pay-per-view, everybody expected him to show up on last Wednesday night. Didn't happen. So there is an anticipation here. And especially, how do you follow that promo from Double or Nothing? That was tough to do. I don't think he quite captured the aura that he had that Sunday night, but it was still good because he went out and he didn't pick on one individual. He picked on several. He let everybody, he said he put everybody on notice in the company. It wasn't just one faction, one guy. So that's what I like. My only issue with it was the choice of who was going to interrupt him in his promo and become his first challenger. Someone who hasn't been on television in how long? When was the last time Rush was on television? Can anybody answer that?
I think he was on Collision somewhat recent, not on Dynamite in a long time.
Well, there you go. I think he was. That's the problem. It's like, I think he was on TV, so-and-so. I get it. Who are you going to feed to him for his first match? And obviously he's not going to lose his first match. And I get the idea with going with Rush, but at the same time, it would have been nicer to have someone a little bit more prominent on their television show to give him a fight, to give him a good match where people have at least somewhat of a suspension of disbelief that he may overcome, but he's not going to lose his first fight. And the other thing too, I had a little bit of an issue with is when they first started their brawl in the ring. I want those. I hate when they're just standing there toe to toe and trying to throw punches and stuff like. Make it a fight. Grab the guy. Try to take him down. I mean, that's what a real fight is happening. Not just standing there going, "Oh, let's go back and forth." It's little things like that I think would have made it a little more interesting. They got that way after everybody jumped in. Do it before everybody jumps in and give them a reason to want to jump in, because if you're jumping in to break up one of those, you might take one by example. Trust me, I know I've had a few.
It's funny. You're right. If they went to the mat, if like one of them double legged the other one and they went to the mat, it feels a lot more heated than when they just stand there and trade punches like that. But George, I actually think Rush is the right guy, because I think Rush is someone who presents well. He presents like a threat. Now, to Jimmy's point, MJF ain't losing, and I feel like you got to give him a few matches to sort of do some stuff before he gets to that big first match. So I feel like this is fine. I don't think it's going to be drawn out for another. I don't think this is going through All In or anything like that. But what are your thoughts on this opening segment and the fact that MJF seems like he's still on the good guy side of things? Do you think that's the right move?
I think it's the right move. I think he kind of mentioned it at the pay-per-view as well, where he kind of learned from his mistakes as far as maybe trusting anybody. He's going to be this lone wolf, especially in a stable, heavy promotion like AEW. I dug it. I didn't know AEW knew how to start the show with a superstar, though. I thought they just kind of saved that for the second or third segment. Had to say it. But the only thing that kind of irked me about this promo or this segment was you have MJF, Newsflash, we all know this. MGF is really good at promos. Rush isn't exactly the best promo guy, so it really made Rush look kind of second tier. In addition to that, Rush is like, while you've been out, with injury, I've been, grinding here and there. He was off TV for like 3 months, and he's only had like 1 or 2 matches in the last like month or so. Like, maybe choose your words a little bit more wisely, because now you just sound a little silly. But I have no problem with this feud. I think it's going to be great. Just speaking on what MJF was saying, calling out people, MJF versus Will Ospreay is a match that I never thought I needed until about 2 hours ago.
Bruv. Yeah. I think it was great that he called out all those people, because he just planted those seeds for the future. So once we get those, we're going to be excited about those. Again, I get what you're saying about Rush's promo, but to me, honestly, I guess the whole time I was thinking this is the first guy he takes out on the. I guess I'm just not taking this one as a very serious thing, anyways. And like I said, I don't think they're going to be having. I have a feeling this match is going to happen at Forbidden Door, which is how long ago is it's in 2 weeks? When is it?
I think it's June 30th.
Oh, we've got a few weeks. I think it'll happen before Forbidden Door. Then I think it's going to be pretty quick.
No. You don't have his first match back before, because Forbidden Door is in Long Island. Like, that has to be his first match back.
Oh, well, in that case, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe it'll be on Rampage.
Maybe they do drag it out for another 3 weeks. That's a long time. Or 4 weeks. That's a long time, guys. My confidence level just got shaken on this.
But even if they do have that match in about a week or two, who does MJF face at a Forbidden Door? Does he face a New Japan guy or a CMLL guy?
Maybe. I don't know.
Does every match have to be a Forbidden Door type match where you're fighting someone from a different promotion? Exactly because the main event is Swerve and Will.
Right.
So
even though for some reason it still feels like AEW New Japan, but maybe it's because Will's still new. But I mean, you're right. I think it's because Will's still new that it feels a little bit like he's a New Japan guy. Michael Williams with the great comment, though. Jimmy, you son of a gun, you definitely belong in the Hall of Fame. I just want to keep putting that out there because I think so also.
Oh, thank you, guys.
Jimmy, I wanted to ask you this. I thought this was kind of an interesting thing. And I don't know if you took note of it. I feel like maybe you did, though. MJF said he calls himself the best in the world, and then he lists off the name of people that also have referred to themselves as the best in the world that MJF has beaten. MJF has beaten CM Punk, but I don't think he named CM Punk in that list. What were your thoughts on him excluding that name?
You have to be careful because we saw what happens when you mention someone like a CM Punk on AEW television. He gets chants. You don't want them chanting for that guy. And that's when he was naming guys off. If you notice, when he was naming guys off, he did name Cody, but it was like a quick Cody Rhodes, and then he went to the next guy really quick, so it didn't give the audience a chance to start chanting his name if they were going to. So I like that aspect of it. Hey, calling himself the best in the world, we got a lot of guys who call themselves the best in the world. Look back to Bret Hart when he was the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. And, some people agree with that. Others will say Shawn Michaels was the best ever, Ric Flair. Everybody has that. If you're talking today, that's a tough call because calling yourself the best wrestler in the world today, there's a lot of great wrestlers out there. So you're putting yourself out there. And if you've got people that are going to critique every little thing, I have a different opinion of who I think is the best wrestler in the world. Is he the best draw in the world? If you want to talk the best draw in the world, for me, it's Cody Rhodes. There's no doubt about it. Well, somebody is acknowledging over there. You got to put Roman in the conversation, but for me, I said it before, I'll say it again. I know this is an AEW show, but Randy Orton is the most complete wrestler on the planet for me right now.
Oh, Randy Orton is one of the greatest of all time. I think that's totally fair to say. And I feel like if anyone disagrees, you're wrong. But speaking about being the best in the world, MJF actually talked about it. He said recently in an interview with Sports Illustrated, quote, Cody Rhodes is a mentor of mine. I effing love the guy. I love the Rhodes coaster. But when Triple H is doing an interview on one of the biggest sports shows, whose name were they cheering in the background? My name. I'm not just the biggest star in AEW. I'm one of the biggest stars in the history of the effing business. George Hermoza, you love talking about history and pro wrestling. I know that you have to say this if you're MJF, but is he close to being there?
No. I mean, when somebody says he's one of the best, how many people are in that group?
That's exactly what I was going to ask. How many people before you get to consider yourself in that group?
And like, and how many people, but also like, what's the percentage, right? Like top 20 of like 1,000. What does that mean? If you got a group of like 5,000, does that go up to top 50?
I mean, if you're thinking about every person who's ever wrestled in the history of all time, MJF probably is in a very high percentile because there's a lot of people who didn't really make it much farther than pro wrestling school. But so maybe if you're using those numbers, it skews things a little differently. But Jimmy, let's take of all time or in history out of that. Let's say today. You said Cody Rhodes
is a bigger star.
Is a bigger star, right?
Yes.
If you're talking about the best in the world, however you decide it, just for fun, you're not being held to this forever, but just off the top, how close is he today to being one of the biggest stars in pro wrestling? If we're only talking current active wrestlers, so you can take John Cena off the list, you can take The Rock off the list, active competitors, just like, is he top 5, top 10, top 15, top 20?
I would put him in the top 10. I don't know if I'd risk going top 5 because let's face it, he hasn't had that much time to establish himself as the best in the world right now. He's still got to, for me, prove it.
Yeah.
He was on the shelf for a long time, and that's no fault of his. That's what happens in this business to some people, and that derails them for a little while. He's come back. He's hotter than a firecracker right now, which is great. People are buying into this new look, this new kind of attitude from him. He's always had it. It's just coming out a little more aggressively, and he's having a little more fun with it. You can see he's having a lot more fun with it. As far as being the best in the world, right now, I'm not there yet. I want to see more before I can make that call.
I'd give him top 20 though.
Oh, right now, yeah, he's top 20. I'd easily put him in top 20. I think it's more of a top 5 or top 10 conversation.
If he was top 10, it'd be on the lower of the maybe like 9 or 10. Because
if you start just doing the math of who's available, like there's certain guys like we mentioned Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes already. That's like 1 and 2. Randy Orton's been doing this too long. Yeah, I mean you're not going to pass that guy for a very long time.
Drew,
so there's just a lot of people that there's a lot of big names who've been doing it for a long time. But
you got to throw Gunther on the list because lately he's been really on fire.
Gunther's been incredible lately.
By the way, Boring Banana, he's actually Randy's on Boring Bananas right now. That's why he looks the way he does.
Boring Bananas. Is that a show or so? Is that?
I don't. It could be.
But speaking of MJF though,
I love that. That's the funny. Boring Bananas. I dig it.
Are we all done with the Adam Cole story now?
Yes, I think so. I think that's what that whole thing at Double or Nothing was about. Was them. I think the only reason Adam Cole was there is so they could officially say this is done. We're moving on.
Yeah, what an unfortunate timing. That could have been something, but yeah, just injuries and.
I'm actually glad they're sweeping under the rug and just moving on because I don't want to see. I don't really care to see it anymore. But Boring Bananas in the chat.
Yes,
that's where.
There you go.
I thought Boring Bananas. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. I thought Jimmy. I thought this was a play on
Savannah Bananas.
Like when the crowd went banana.
Pat Patterson.
His name. Pat Patterson. I thought you were making a joke about the Pat Patterson line, like banana is good, but Boring Banana is bad. That's why I thought that was funny.
Hey, Pat always had the best line ever when he'd come up to you. Hey, you know who's asking about you? Nobody.
Oh man, we got a lot of stuff to cover. So in the chat, let us know if you're talking about today, active wrestlers only, let us know roughly where you think MJF would fall in that list. Top 5, top 10, top 15, 20. I would love to know what you guys think, just off the cuff. You don't have to think about it too much. We got Orange Cassidy versus Kyle O'Reilly versus Jay Lethal versus Rey Fenix in a number 1 contender international championship match. Lots of fun stuff and kind of the kind of match that I think is a specialty of AEW because of the chaos. Phoenix gets the win and will face Ospreay next week for the International Championship. After the match, Trent comes down to attack Orange Cassidy, but Cassidy grabs a chain. Statlander stops him and then sucker punches Orange Cassidy. That leads to Willow Nightingale to chase off Statlander. Later, Willow reminds us that she was betrayed by Statlander when Willow lost the TBS Championship. George, this was a very fun matchup. The 4-way, it's crazy. Like I said, I feel like this is kind of what AEW has leaned into, is kind of matches they have, the crazy kind of chaotic ones. But the big story, obviously, is everything that happened afterwards. I smell mixed tag team match coming on.
Yeah, it looks like that is what they're leaning toward. Dude, I love Willow. I think she's so amazing, and I'm happy to kind of see her thrown back in the mix. I think the biggest story coming out of this match is going to be Phoenix against Ospreay. That's going to be like just. I mean that alone I think is going to steal the show, and I can't wait to talk about it next week on Dynamite. But yeah, that to me, the match was great. I like these kind of segments where I feel like nothing really was rushed. They really took their time, and like you said, it really is. It had a lot of stories coming out of it, whether it's Phoenix versus Ospreay, whether it's Trent and Statlander going up against Orange and Willow. I'm thumbs up for everything involved in regards to this segment.
Yeah, a lot of layers with the Willow and Statlander thing going on, which the women's division in AEW has sorely needed for a very long time. And they're finally getting that rolling. Jimmy, I'd love your thoughts on everything that happened after the match, but also Ospreay's challenging for that world title at Forbidden Door. Does Phoenix have a chance to actually win the international championship next week?
In storyline wise, yes. In reality, I don't believe so. I think they want to make this a match where it is a champion versus champion, whether it's for both titles. I do not think so. They haven't made that clear. It should be, yes, but I don't think they've made that clear. And I would like to see it that way, and that way you can have a definitive winner. Or because I don't want to see this match ending up in some kind of cluster at the end. And I think we do need a definitive winner in this one way or the other, whether the Callis family gets involved because is Will really part of the Callis family or not? And whether they get involved to actually cost Will the match would be interesting. And then you can segue into Will Ospreay versus the members of the Callis family. As far as the angle at the end, the thing I didn't appreciate about it was we didn't get any heat on Orange Cassidy. Every week they try to get heat on Orange Cassidy, and he keeps fighting back. Stay down just once.
Yeah,
I want to see Trent Beretta lay him out. He picked up the chair. You know what? And he had the steel chain. If I'm in a fight, and it's like steel chair versus chain, I'm going with the steel chair every time because I can swing it from a distance. You got to get really close to the guy in order to use that chain. So why not have him take out whether he, hits him with the chair, something, and do something to lay him out where you have a reason for you to have sympathy on him. Because if he keeps coming back after every beatdown that he gets, there's no heat on Trent. Yep. That's my only issue with it. Yes, I like the little layer that they threw in with Statlander and Willow coming out. Yeah. But actually, he sold that punch from Statlander better than he sold the pile driver on the steel steps. But I digress. I just wanted to see more heat on Trent to make it worthwhile. That's all.
Jimmy, we come on this show. We agree so much on Monday. We get on this show and we fight and we argue. And I listen to what you say just now, and I agree with everything. I agree with you across the board there. I do agree with you. I think that especially Trent, someone who I think needs to be presented as a threat, has never been it's almost like reverse. It's almost like he's the guy I'm rooting for to finally put down Orange Cassidy because nothing ever stops him. And we need something to be like, oh wow, Trent is a threat. Because right now it feels like Trent's a yeet fly buzzing around Orange Cassidy and you just can't squat him.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So I absolutely agree with you. I think that Orange Cassidy needs to get laid out and he needs to look really bad. And it needs to look like, oh wow, like this. I can't believe they did that to our hero who we all love. So we hate him.
That's one little issue I have with it. Not just with Orange Cassidy, it happens with others too. It's just sometimes when you do something drastic to somebody, they have to stay down. And then, you know what? Don't go to the next segment right away. Let people marinate. Let people draw it in and say, oh my goodness, what happened? You know, we're going to go to break. Hopefully we can have a report on so-and-so when we come back. Make people think that it's really something dastardly that was done.
Yeah, it's again, and it doesn't need to be like every week he gets beat up.
No.
Trent needs to get some dubs a few times. I mean, he took 2 losses in matches and he's kind of come out on not being able to put away Orange Cassidy after matches twice now too. Trent's never really been successful in any way against Orange Cassidy. So I don't know. It feels a little bit like the Joker trying to fight Superman, you know, like, I mean, it feels like Joker keeps trying to stab Superman and Superman's like, bro, doesn't work. There's a comic person out there that's probably going to tell me, well, actually the Joker has taken Superman to the limit a few times. I don't know. I'm just using these names. Cut me some slack. But in any case, I do want to say we got a super chat from Terry Allen Jr. I'm going to save that for when we get to Saraya's match because it's about Saraya. So I see it. I will get to it. I promise that. For now, we've got really, I think the part of the show that is just growing on people, guys. And we talk about growing. We're talking about the learning tree just sinking its roots into the ground around us. Jericho it's teaching Larry how to hold the camera. He's giving advice to Matt Menard and Cool Hand Ange, and he invites Public Party to TV time with Jericho next week. George looks like he has a rant, so I'm going to get Jimmy get his stuff out first. Jimmy, I want your thoughts on the learning tree. It's growing on me for real. I love how cheesy over the top it is, but also Bounty Hunter Brian Keith, the bad apple. He was stealing the show for me today, being so serious and mean. What are your thoughts on the learning tree?
I'm actually agreeing with you, Jack. This week it grew on me more because it wasn't just talking about in-ring, follow me. I could teach you how to be a winner in the ring. He was telling the cameraman, he was telling the guy at catering how to scoop the chicken out of the. I mean, it was so ridiculous. I was laughing. I was actually, I was laughing out loud. And if I'm laughing out loud, then you're entertaining me. It wasn't like that. Oh my God. That wasn't the laugh where you go, oh, I can't believe they did that. It was partly that, but at the same time, if I'm laughing because I'm entertained, then I'm okay with it. Does it work? Is it going to draw ratings? Probably not. But for me, it just entertained me. That's all I could tell you.
Look, Beer Buddy says, Jack, did you say Public Party? You know they're private. No, I think it's changed after this.
Clearly, Beer Money was not. He turned it off when anytime Jericho was on him.
Fernando says the learning tree is underrated, and this is going to help the bad apple a lot. I love how this is going. George, go ahead and pee in the punch bowl.
I absolutely loved it. I'm kidding.
Did you really?
No, I don't know. It's not good. It's a little too much. Man, it's one of those. I'm probably like just contradicting myself right now, but is it bad? 1000%. Can I look away? Nope. Because I like watching car accidents. I like I'm that guy that likes to watch those the pets knocking over babies, they run so fast and the kid knocks down. It's like is it bad to watch? Yeah, I shouldn't be watching, but I can't turn away either. I don't know. It's just bad. I can't.
Burner Count says Jericho is so selfless, deserving of sainthood. And Armando says Jericho is so bad that it's good, and I hate that I like it. Beer Money, I learned how to scoop chicken and dumplings from catering. Thanks, Jericho.
By the way, that chicken and dumplings didn't look very appetizing, at least from my vantage point.
No, I don't. I think the way you scoop that chicken and dumplings is you take it out of your bowl and put it back in the catering.
Yeah.
But let us know in the chat, because I feel like, or let us know in the comments your thoughts on the learning tree, because I feel like this is a very divisive segment. I feel like some people love it, some people are probably going to hate it. It's just so corny to me. It cracks me up every time I see this.
I can't.
No, it hit me just now. All those years of catering, I don't ever remember chicken and dumplings.
Chicken and dumplings doesn't seem like a good catering thing to leave out all day for people to eating. Especially if you have to get on a flight right afterwards.
Yeah.
or if you're going to go into a match right afterward. You better eat it after the match, because if you have it before the match, you're going to have a problem.
Even worse in the airplane is getting on one of those buses and just, well, at least on the bus you can crack the windows open anyways.
But I do like Brian Keith as a bad apple. I will say that.
Yeah,
Brian Keith is a treasure. I love, because it's actually such a great. I'm glad that they're doing that with Brian Keith, because with Big Bill also being super cheesy and being like, it's a beautiful day, appreciate the little things. Like, I love that. That's funny. But if Brian Keith was also doing it, I'd be like, okay, I get it. It's a bunch of these guys. But with him being like, feel like he's going to stab someone for not respecting Chris Jericho, it's kind of like, it adds a different dynamic to the group. And so I like it because it's different, but it still fits. So so far I'm digging it.
No, you're right. Chris Jericho's so over the top cheesy, and Big Bill is kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
Then you got Brian Keith, like, who's a serious deadpan guy.
Like, you better teach that baby to respect Chris Jericho.
Can you imagine a guy like R-Truth in that kind of a group?
Oh, he'd be great. And he'd just be R-Truth.
Yeah.
You could put R-Truth. I challenge you. There's no group you couldn't put R-Truth in and not make it more funny and not make it better. They'd all be great. Mark Briscoe has a match with Brian Cage in a TNT ladder match qualifier. Takeshita's already qualified, and so Jack Perry has not, but he was about to be gifted the title before this match was set up. Mark Briscoe gets a clean win. Later, Jack Perry says it won't matter because he's sacrificed more than anyone else, and the universe has already chosen him. George, this was a good example, I think, of AEW taking a match that's like, oh, this is a good match, and giving it a little stakes and making it a little interesting. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just one of those. It was a good match. Way to showcase Mark Briscoe. I forgot that he's the Ring of Honor champion. I guess he gets featured a lot on the Ring of Honor show, right? I don't know. I don't really watch.
Well, that's what I'm saying about this Forbidden Door thing. You have to watch all these plus Ring of Honor, George. I mean,
yeah, that's true. But yeah, I mean, I think, and especially with Jack Perry, I kind of went on last week and said they should have just gave Jack Perry the championship. I think that would have done a lot more for Jack Perry and the direction of his character, just to kind of give him a title. Kind of goes back what we were saying earlier about Orange Cassidy. I feel like AEW is just afraid of just good old fashioned heat. They want to do something. They want to do right by the business, and it's like, yeah, doing right by the business is generating heat and drawing money. I would have done anything to, and even they could have even given him the championship and said, and then Chris Daniels comes out and says, hey, by the way, your first championship match is going to be in a ladder match. Like, it's still a way to kind of get it over. And if they eventually have Jack Perry come out and win the championship, I think it's going to be all for nothing. Good match. I mean, Brian Cage, I like that he's being showcased after he said he's got 5 or 6 years on his contract left.
Yeah.
So he should be featured on a regular basis. But good match. No complaints.
Yeah, the Perry thing, I agree. In hindsight, it probably would have been better if they just gave him the title and then even said, well, who are you going to defend it against? At Forbidden Door, had him go, listen, I just won the title. I can't defend it right away, and then do the thing where he's not even defending the title, like the opposite of a workhorse champion, and trying to do that whole thing and always talk about how he won the title, even though it was handed to him. I think that could have been really fun to see. But Jimmy, your thoughts on the match? And it does kind of feel like Jack Perry is the favorite to win the title.
No, I agree with that. I did like the match. I thought the match was good. I enjoyed the match very much. And like you said, putting two guys together that really have no issue with each other, give them a reason to get in the ring with each other. That worked out good for me. I did like that. Yeah. And the Jack Perry promo afterwards, I thought it was an interesting choice of words where he says the universe chose him, because there's another company that kind of uses that terminology a lot. They call their fans the universe.
Do they still use that? Do they still say universe anymore?
I
mean, I get what you're saying. I'm not trying to like argue, but like,
no.
I wonder if that's like a Vince thing, because it feels like they haven't really said the universe in a bit. But
true, era. Well, yeah, I don't know.
You're right. I'm not arguing with you on. You're absolutely. I get what you're saying. You're right.
Maybe that was in reference to it. I don't know. But I thought it was an interesting choice of words, and you guys are right. I agree with the fact that why not just give it to them, and that's where you generate heat. And like you said, George, not that they're afraid. I don't think they're afraid to generate old-fashioned heat. I just think they're trying to reinvent how to get heat, and it's not working the way the old school way just still does. You know, yes, the business evolves. You try different things. You try different approaches to getting heat and getting baby faces over. But sometimes you just got to go back to what works.
You know, yeah. Now, the more I think about it, how great it would be if he did just get handed that title, and you know he's not defending it. They're like, hey, are you going to defend this title? Whatever. Listen, I'm the workhorse, and I did an interview earlier today, so I'm putting in the work. You know, and like all this stuff he's doing, it's not actually defending the title. I think they could have done a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, I drove 20 minutes to the arena.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, like all this.
My Uber driver talked too much, and it really took a toll on me.
Yeah,
20 minutes was hardly enough time to get a full nap in, because I wasn't driving the car. Someone else was driving.
Yeah, I barely dozed off.
They had Aquafina in the back of the car. I had to drink that. So I don't know, just stuff like that. That'd be great. Man Cave Session says, I think they still say that, referring to the universe. Maybe they do.
Okay.
And then burner account though said, I get the R-Truth would even somehow fit into the West Texas Rednecks. I think that would have been a funny.
He could fit anywhere.
He really could. Yeah, he's fantastic. But the EVPs had a busy night. They first stopped the Acclaim from making their way to the ring. They cut the segment as the segment was starting. And when Acclaim tries to confront the Elite has security stop them. Security had a pretty busy night themselves tonight. Later, the EVPs are approached by the Patriarchy, and Christian wants to know a title shot. EVPs waffled a little bit, but they eventually agree to continue having a, quote, working relationship. We talk about the getting heat. I feel like cutting off the Acclaimed mid-entrance was a pretty good approach to that. Talk to me about your thoughts on that and whatever's going on with the Patriarchy.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I thought it was great. You kind of go back to the Young Bucks. I don't know if people remember, but they're the AEW Tag Team Champions, and I don't think they've defended it once since they've become champions. And I'm okay with that. They're heels. They're the EVPs. Why are they going to voluntarily go out there and try to put their titles in risk by losing them? So I like that aspect, and because it kind of reminds me like they have the belts in the background too to kind of say like, hey, we're the champions and we do whatever the hell we want. So I kind of like this consistency of just being able to run the show because if especially with the Acclaim, it kind of shows that hey, we're running this stuff, and we kind of. It wouldn't make sense if they just kind of forget that they can't do that. No, they can do that. They're kind of in charge, and the fact that they cut it off, I think totally makes sense. And I was really a fan of this. Even with the Christian thing, I was kind of looking forward to see what they have planned. And maybe the trios titles going up against Bang Bang Gang or Bullet Club Gold, whatever their name is. But yeah, I really like these segments with the Bucks. I think they're kind of finally kind of coming into their own as far as exactly what their character is and it should be.
Yeah, Jimmy, the thing that, first off, I feel like Acclaim versus the Elite seems to be building up pretty straightforward there. But what was interesting to me is how the EVPs didn't exactly agree with the patriarchy. And it felt like, even though they got along, Matt Jackson felt like he was waffling a little bit. Like he was trying to tell them what they wanted to hear, trying to keep the, hey, you're scratching our back, right? Is there a way they can navigate the patriarchy versus the EVPs? Like, or is there something bigger happening here that we should be keeping an eye on for? What do you think's going on there?
I think there's a lot of opportunity here to maybe make the EVPs grow their stable, for lack of a better term, with someone like a Christian could add some really, really big time heat. Because I think Matthew and Nicholas are doing a hell of a job being those dastardly EVPs, cutting off the Acclaim in mid rap and cutting off their music and making them security get them back here or whatever the case may be. I think that aspect of it is good. Even their security guards, you notice on their shirts, they don't have the AEW symbol on their shirts. It says Elite. Just little details that actually make this thing work. And as far as what happens with Christian Cage and his entourage, it would be interesting to see, because Christian is, like you said, one of the top heels in the business, but a lot of times the top heels end up becoming some of your best baby faces and vice versa.
Right.
So maybe there's something there in the works to try and get Christian, and maybe you get a reformation of him and an old tag team partner once he gets better.
We talk about, you mentioned like merging the two. I didn't think about it before, but once you said that, I love the idea, because to me, I think what the Elite is missing right now is that serious kind of killer person who could be a real threat to the world title, who isn't there for fun and games. Because Matt Jackson's kind of the leader. Matthew Jackson's been kind of the leader. He's the one on the microphone. It feels like he's the one of the point person. And I think he's great. I'm a huge fan of the Bucks, but he's not a serious person. He's always kind of a goofy person. So it's hard to be fearful of that group. And even Okada, I know he's the Rainmaker and he's great, but even he's kind of more like cheeky, silly, kind of like, I'm going to be jokey. Where Christian, I think if he had that power, if he was the guy in charge, he'd be like, oh, this is scary if Christian is the one able to pull the strings now, because he has that I'm terrified of this guy kind of thing.
And he's got some big time backup. Say what you will about Killswitch, who hasn't had a win in a long time. He is a big, scary looking guy. And with all due respect to the Human Torch, Jack Perry, he's not the guy that looks that scary either.
Right.
Human Torch.
Well, no, that's true. Jack Perry, I think, has been great since he's come back, but he's not at that point yet where he's a scary person in pro wrestling.
Any guy that can survive fire is pretty scary.
You know what I mean? Like he hasn't been getting big wins over everybody and shown that he's unbeatable, like a John Moxley, for instance, or how Kenny Omega was when he was the champion. There's certain people that there's built in a way that you're like, this person is tough. In WWE, it'd be like a Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns. Obviously, there's certain people they never lose, and he hasn't gotten to that point yet. So I think they just need that person that's like, ooh, I'm scared of this guy pulling the strings.
Well, something just clicked in my head, because there seems to be a battle going on between Christopher Daniels as the interim EVP and the actual EVPs, Matthew and Nicholas. What if they gave Christian Cage immunity to anything he does to the interim EVP and take him out of the equation?
That would be interesting to see. See, that's the kind of stuff I think Christian, if you give him that like full super, like he's the super evil villain, I'm totally down for that. We had a couple of videos and backstage segments. Samoa Hook and the Premier Athletes have a run in backstage. Joe says they'll handle it on their time. Mercedes Monet, I was one of those guys that said Monet for a long time. It's going to take me a long time to get it right. Sorry. Mercedes Monet had a video package, did a great job of selling her upcoming match at Forbidden Door. And Daniel Garcia, a very powerful video about what he's been through, and says no one can outgrind him. Any takeaways from these videos, Jimmy? Like I said, I thought Mercedes did a great job of selling this person who has never been on AEW before. And Daniel Garcia, I thought, looks great. Of course, we're going to have to see follow through.
No, you're right. We need to find out a little bit more about Mercedes' opponent. That's hard to say, Mercedes is. but her opponent upcoming for a Forbidden Door. But I found the Hook Samoa Joe pairing very intriguing. I like the fact that Samoa Joe is the calm one in the room. That's the part that gets me going. He's one of those guys that you don't want to tick off. You know what I mean? Because he's a beast. He's a killer. So that is what I'm enjoying a lot about it. Because Hook is that young guy. He's brash. Always ready to fight. And Joe's like the guy who's calm and going, you know what? Got to wait your time. Pick your time. Pick the right time. You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. That sort of thing. So I like that aspect of it for sure.
George, I love how Samoa Joe uses the stuff we can't see. Like, I see there's a lot of security here today. Like, they had no one there that we could see, but it builds a world, and it's a great. I think that was just a very clever thing for him to do. But the big takeaway for me is, this is something I always like to give flowers when we complain about something and they do it. We've always complained about how we don't know who certain people are, and I think Mercedes telling us who, and I apologize if I get the last name wrong, Stephanie Vacure. In the upcoming match, she told us who she was, and so now I'm more excited to see this. And it's title for title, which makes it have a bit of some stakes on there. What did you think of these video packages?
I think I'm quite the opposite. I can care less for the Samoa Hook segments. I just don't get Hook. He's like very calm until somebody takes his bag of chips, and now he wants to fight somebody. I don't know. It's just weird. I mean, maybe that's why Samoa Joe's there, so that way he can know how to channel his energy better. Love the Mercedes promo. Like I mentioned last week, I really like the story they're telling of this title was specifically meant. The women's New Japan Strong Championship. That title was made for Mercedes Moné. Like, she was supposed to. Sorry to break kayfabe. She was supposed to win that championship. She was supposed to win that title if it wasn't for the injury. And now she's coming back to challenge for the championship that was specifically made for her. And now that it's officially a title versus title, I really think she's gonna complete that mission coming up at Forbidden Door. And I can't say anything more than I absolutely love Daniel Garcia's promo. We saw finally some insight on who he is, as far as maybe almost having to end his career because of a car accident. Now this is something that we can get behind, not just, oh yeah, he wrestles good like everybody else, and he does a silly dance, but why should I really like him? And now we finally saw why, a good reason why we should always root for him. And now it's, anytime he comes out, I know I'm going to be waving the Daniel Garcia flag.
Yeah, I'm a huge Daniel Garcia fan, by the way. I'm a big cheerleader for him. He's a great dude and he's a great wrestler. So hope big things happen. And George Hermoza has confirmed it. The chips are Hook's earn to the Undertaker. You mess with the chips, you get the Hook.
I will say, don't take my popcorn, but really quickly here, because I was just curious. I was going to make a little joke out of it. I was going to Google kayfabe to see where there's actual Wikipedia page explaining the term. I did not know this.
Well, what does it say?
But is it right?
Well, in professional wrestling, kayfabe, and then they say the proper pronunciation in brackets is the portrayal of staged events within an industry as real or true. Specifically, the portrayal of competition, rivalries, and relationships between participants as being genuine and not staged. Then it goes on. It's like this long expiration, history, etymology, faces and heels, uses. I mean, like, this is crazy. I didn't know this existed.
I mean, well, I think the word kayfabe is, there's no easy definition to it. It's got a lot of different meanings in pro wrestling.
Yeah, just ask Hulk Hogan, brother.
And then Armando giving me some help on my pronunciation. So it's Vacure.
No, he's saying he doesn't know if it's Vacure or Vacure.
Oh, in any case, we'll have to do some research. Well, analytics team, could you get on that right away? Thank you.
Although I will say, based on what I've seen, this girl is great. She's fantastic for everything that I've seen. So AEW's got to be very careful, because if they don't snatch her up, somebody else will. I think she would do great things in the WWE.
She's doing great things already, and so we'll have to see. Again, I'm sure she's going to get a big money payday. I'm sure very soon. We got an 8-man tag team match. Blackpool Combat Club versus Team CMLL. It's chaotic. Wheeler Yuta got the crowd to chant his name during his return. Wheeler gets the win for the BCC. Shivani implies that the rivalry between CMLL is over. And later, Bryan Danielson says he's proud of Yuta, and he's 8 months into his last year, and he's lost every big match. So he says his last best shot will be the Owen Hart tournament and getting a world title shot. I can see the faces you guys are making, and I say, yeah, I kind of checked out for this match too. I love chaos. I love anarchy. This one, I think, went a little too far in that direction, and I never really felt like Blackpool Combat Club was going to lose. Jimmy, any takeaways on this one?
No, you pretty much summed it up. It was a lot of chaos, a lot of stuff that went on that kind of, it catered to that certain audience. Obviously, the crowd live was chanting, "This is awesome," and I don't know what they were watching that was different from me. It wasn't for me. It wasn't awesome. It was a lot of stuff going on. That was it. Stuff going on. My favorite part of the whole match was when it broke down right at the beginning and everybody was fighting each other. And Tony Schiavone says Aubrey Edwards is doing her best to control this chaos, and they show this wide shot, and all she's doing is standing in the ring. She's not even motioning. She's not, you know me. I notice these things. It just popped me. That's all that he had to say it. Why did you have to say it? Don't just forget it. Say, but it served its purpose, I guess, to get the Blackpool Combat Club and Yuta back, which is a good thing. It was good to see him back and healthy. That's for sure.
I'll say if I was there live, I probably would have loved this, because it's when you're live, seeing like the big swing is different than when you're at home, because when you're at home or when you're there, you're like, he's doing the big swing to somebody. Great. I love it, and you're seeing all this stuff. And this is cool when you're there live, but when you're at home, it hits a little different. And this one I wasn't as invested in. But George, I feel like the bigger news is Bryan Danielson, first person, I believe, to declare for the Owen Hart tournament. And he says this is going to be his last big shot. Is Bryan Danielson going to win the Owen Hart tournament, or is he going to go out with another big L?
I think he's going to win. Again, this was something that I didn't know that I needed. I just kind of him winning it and him main eventing All In, him going to Wembley. I wouldn't mind seeing him leave Wembley as world champion. I know he probably wouldn't want it. I feel like he's kind of there just to kind of put people over and just wrestle a bunch of new guys, which I'm sure he loves doing. But yeah, I think it'd be good business to have Bryan Danielson be champion, at least even if he's a transitional champion.
Yeah, I would love to see him have one big last hurrah if this truly is the end for him. Jimmy, thoughts on Bryan Danielson potentially winning or just going into the Owen Hart tournament? And Burner Accounts comments says, what's the purpose of BCC? They could be better utilized as individual competitors. I'm just going to sprinkle that onto your answer and say, I agree.
I was going to say real quick before Jimmy, I do have something to say about Yuta before or after Jimmy's finished.
Oh, okay. No, I agree. I'd like to see them all go their separate paths. I think the Blackpool Combat Club has passed its expiration date. Mm-hmm. So I think it's time for everybody to move on and do their own thing. As far as Bryan Danielson being the winner I'd like to see that. I really would, because I think, the tournament is an homage to Owen Hart. And I think that someone like that would, do that tournament justice by being the winner of it and going on to face. It'd be interesting. Does he do a retirement after winning the title? That would be kind of cool. A nice homage to him if he's thinking of hanging them up and maybe taking a different role. Maybe he wins the title, comes back to America and says, I accomplished the goal I needed to accomplish. I've done everything in this business I needed to do. It's time for me to be a family man. It's time for me to take care of my family, because they're the ones who sacrificed all those years for me to live my dream. I lived my dream. I accomplished my goals. My story is told. Now it's time for me to hang it up and have the entire locker room come out and give them that beautiful send-off. Either that, or somebody does the dastardly deed right there. And then you says, you know what? I was ready to hang it up. I was ready to give this all up for my family. What you did was now you asked for it. I'm not going anywhere. Come and get it if you want it.
Both of those, I think, would get a huge reaction. I'm thinking Swerve goes to All In as the champion still, and maybe we get the sort of a replay of Ric Flair HBK in Ric Flair's last match, where it's a battle and it ends with Swerve being like, "Sorry, man, I got to do this to you," and him being like, I don't know. I feel you could go a lot of different ways, but Bryan Danielson, hopefully that. I don't care about his personal life or health. Don't hang it up. Keep going. Mariah May faces.
Sorry, real quick. I do want to say about this Wheeler Yuta return. I mean, I'm personally not a fan of Wheeler Yuta. I think he needs a haircut. He looks too much like a 16-year-old kid, and I get why he has a goatee. But I mean, aside from that aspect, obviously he's in the Blackpool Combat Club, right? I think it's a big deal for him to be in there. So for him just to be like Tony Khan put out a tweet saying, "All right, guys, he's back. He's going to be the 8-man tag," and that's it. All right, whatever. I think that his return could have been a little bit more bigger deal. But watch it back. I don't know if anybody's going to watch it back, but when you watch it back, he comes out fourth. I think he should have been coming out first, but he comes out fourth. Not only that, he's like right behind Cesaro. So you can barely even see, I was going to say Cesaro. He's right behind Claudio, and you can barely even see Wheeler Yuta. Like, get your shot, man. I'm not blaming Yuta. Maybe I'm blaming the production team, but man, like he's like, should put the showcase on the guy that probably needs to be put over the most in the group. And I do, and again, I completely I thought the match was fine for what it was, and I completely like that he was the one that got, was able to get the W for the match at the end, finally put some spotlight on Yuta, but dude, like put him over at some point in the build-up to the match. Make it a big deal that he's back after 5, 6, 7 months. Make it a big deal, not just like, all right, guys, I'm going to send out a tweet that he's back and he's just going to be in some random 8-man tag that we all know that the BCC is going to win. Like, dude, give the guy a chance to get over, not just have him out there. And he's like, watch it back. If you watch it back, you can barely see him in the entrance at any point. It's not until he's in the ring for the match where you finally see, like, oh, okay, he looks the same.
George, do you think that falls on Wheeler Yuta not saying I want to come out first, or do you think that falls on the other BCC guys for not putting him up front, or do you think that falls on a production guy?
I think it's a production guy, to be honest with you. I think everything's so rushed that I think maybe we're all and again, I see it at Santino's all the time. Somebody comes out, you see the lower thirds, and at least you have a second or 2 or 5 seconds to get yourself over. You see that, they do a pose, you got the lower thirds. Cool. I know who that guy is. The spotlight's on him or the tag team or whoever's out there. But we don't see that with AEW because everything's just so rush.
Let us know in the chat what you think about that. Should they have given Wheeler Yuta more time, or should they have focused more on Wheeler Yuta's return in this matchup here? I don't think this is the best place to bring him out as a return in general. Should have been a singles match, but
they should have had him make a save it. So maybe be a 6-man tag, and then maybe the other guy from CMLL comes in, and then Wheeler Yuta comes in at the end, makes a big return, makes a big save, and then boom, now you can put him in the spotlight. Not just, all right, he's back.
Well, we got to move on.
Yeah, there's no rules anyway, so why not do it that way?
Yeah. So Mariah May faces Saraya, I should say. Saraya comes out with her brother Zach Knight and Harley Cameron. Mariah battles the numbers throughout, and eventually Saraya gets the win. Storm goes to check on Mariah May, but is attacked afterwards. Mina Shirakawa makes the save this time. This causes jealousy between Mina and Tony, but Mariah May keeps the peace for now. This was Jimmy. I actually had a lot of fun with this one. I thought a lot of people who don't get a lot of TV time got TV time. I thought Harley Cameron has been an emerging star in the women's division. And my favorite line of the night, Tony Storm says, she's a talented woman. I don't know in what though. But also this is kind of an interesting dynamic. I think we kind of saw it coming. Mina Shirakawa, Tony Storm, they're going to have a match at Forbidden Door, but Mariah May is in between them. Thoughts on how this is turning out?
Literally.
I thought it was very interesting the way it played out at the end. That's for sure. I mean, the match itself, I thought was very good. I thought the women did a great job, but it was the after match angle that stole the spotlight. Let's put it that way. And I just wish they would let things breathe. I mean, we just saw the angle, and right away before they even leave the camera shot, excuse me, they're saying, I just got word from Tony Khan in the back that this match has been made official for, give it a moment at least. You know what I mean? It just, it drives me. Oh, here's another text from Tony Storm. Hold on a sec here. You're in the production truck. Can't you say something to somebody? Anyways, send your interim EVP out there to do it. Anything. That just feels awkward to me when every time it happens where they do something post-match to set up a match down the road, it's automatically right away within 3 seconds they get word that this match has been made official.
Yep.
That's the only thing.
Yeah, I still don't 100% feel like they've explained Mina Shirakawa's relationship to Mariah May yet. I mean, George, I infer it. I get it. I get there's a relationship. I'm not stupid. I can see the show and get what's going on, but it hasn't really been why they're like that history. I feel like I'm still missing because I haven't Googled it yet.
Well, it's a good thing the pay-per-view is 3 weeks away because they got plenty of time to explain it. And I do think they are going to take the time to do whatever they need to do to kind of maybe explain a little backstory. Yeah, I mean, I'm digging it. It does look like, for custody of Mariah May. We'll see how that goes. Anytime, and it kind of goes back to what we mentioned earlier about seeing these cross-promotional, interpromotional matches where you have somebody from Stardom, somebody from AEW. I'm all for it. It's not just some random match. Hey, you're a champion here and you're a champion there. We're seeing a little bit of stakes involved, and I think that's really, really cool. In addition to the AEW World's Women's Championship.
We had a question here from Terry Allen Jr. And Terry, thank you so much for being so patient with us. Jimmy, Terry Allen Jr. says Tony is undervaluing Saraya. Will it change? I guess first off, do you believe that she's being undervalued? And two, do you think it'll change?
I don't think she's being undervalued. She just they're setting her up as the next contender after Forbidden Door. That's what I'm seeing here right now. So I don't think she's being undervalued. You just got to take your time with things, Terry. Just let things simmer. Let it simmer. You don't throw it on the barbecue on high. You got to let things cook.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to say she just got a win today, too. So it's kind of tough to say she's being undervalued. But I think she was off TV for a while. George, I want your thoughts on this. It does feel like since Mercedes Moné showed up, that there has been a much more focused women's division. And I feel like Saraya is probably going to be a big part of that.
Yeah, I agree. I was actually a little surprised that she kind of came out with the victory here because I thought, they weren't really doing much with Saraya. But then again, she's not exactly, and again, I don't know how her health is, but she's not out there wrestling every single week. Maybe that's for a reason. So the fact that I think the fact that she does get her TV time on a weekly basis because Harley Cameron is, on the rise and showcasing her abilities more and more every single week. We are seeing plenty of Saraya on a regular basis. And I think that's great. And we got to see that she still can have good matches tonight. And again, I was very surprised that she busted out with a victory against Mariah May, against somebody who I thought has been getting some good wins. So now that she lost clean against Saraya, I think that meant a lot as well.
So as we get to the end of the show here, Swerve Strickland versus Roderick Strong. We got promo packages from Roderick Strong. We got Swerve addressing MJF and Ospreay before addressing Roddy. We get a competitive match with another big win for the champ. So I enjoyed this. I enjoyed the match. I know that there are some thoughts about the setup to the match. And so instead of stepping all over it, I'm just going to let you guys fly. George, I know you've been sitting on it for a while. Let me know your thoughts.
I'm over it. No, it was a lot of discourse on the social media this week, and I unfortunately was kind of going a little back and forth with people on the apps. But just the whole reasoning behind the match, it just kind of goes on last week after we had the great Casino Battle Royal or Gauntlet, whatever it's called. Because essentially, in theory, I never really even realized just how the best explanation for that match, that Casino Gauntlet match, is it's a one-on-one match and you have a certain time to win. If you don't win by a certain time, it becomes a triple threat. And if you don't win at a certain time, it becomes a fatal four-way or a fatal five or a six-pack or whatever, right? Until something happens. But the fact that Roderick Strong And I did kind of realize a couple things. The fact that Roderick Strong came in and said, "Hey, I didn't get a chance to be in the match, therefore I would have won, so I should get a world championship match." I'm not supposed to like his explanation because he's a heel, right? I'm not supposed to agree with them. But the fact that Tony Khan was like, "Wow, what a great idea you have, man. You know what? You're getting a championship." I'm like, "Oh, come on, dude. You're totally setting a precedence in a bad way about the future of this kind of match, that anybody who's not able to get into the match should get a title shot." And then you had a lot of people just kind of going on about, "Oh, well, why are you upset that you were getting a match with two great talents?" I'm all for it. But here's the thing. And I kind of touched on it last week too. Swerve is the world champion. He shouldn't be wrestling guys that he would be wrestling if he wasn't world champion. Once you're the world champion, you're the best of the best of the best. Take away Roderick Strong, because then obviously Swerve has been wrestling other people since winning the championship. His level of competition should be at an all-time high. When somebody wins a UFC championship, they're not facing some unranked guys. They're facing maybe the number 1 or the number 2 contender or number 4 contender, or somebody that would be good for business, not just some random jabroni like Kyle Fletcher or Nick Wayne. And obviously they can all wrestle, but in terms of the rankings, if they even exist, like, why are you wrestling some guys that we all know you can beat? Wrestle guys on a top level. Like, we saw Damian Priest against Rey Mysterio this past week. Rey is a former champion. Like, it makes sense. When we saw John Cena win the championship, he wasn't wrestling on SmackDown against Doug Basham or Heidenreich, right? Like, we saw him still face against top guys. Like, that's what I mean about, like, Swerve shouldn't just be against random guys. I get being a fighting champion, but at least wrestle guys that are deserving of being in the ring with the world champion.
So, a lot to unpack there. Jimmy, any response?
Well, he stole my thunder. I was thinking the exact same thing. So all you have to do to get a title match is piss and moan and rant and rave at the owner and say, "Yeah, I deserve it." And the owner goes, "Okay, you got it then." That didn't sit well with me at all either. I just didn't think the reasoning for it. Yes, he tried to justify it by saying, "I was supposed to be in that match. I didn't make it into the match. So guess what? You don't get the shot." Bottom line, sorry, tough luck. Not everybody gets to make it into the match. And this, not only that, he had just lost the international championship to Ospreay the week before. So you just lost your championship, which I don't mean to put it this way, but it's the secondary title, or maybe third dairy, because there's so many titles there. Who knows? Because Okada's got one. If you're going to merge titles, anyways, off topic.
That's a whole other podcast, Jimmy.
I know. No, because you do Okada Ospreay. That's the one that.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I got a feeling that's happening at
All In.
All In. That's my guess.
I would hope that it happens there, because that would be a banger, as the kids say. But no, I just didn't like the way this came out. Yes, the match was good. I enjoyed the match very much.
Yeah.
Because Roderick Strong has great psychology. He tells a great story in the ring. Swerve is like, he's the man. Like, and they finally put him in the right spot on the show in the main event, but with the wrong guy, with all due respect to Roddy, because he is good. It's not the point that he's good. Yeah. Yes, we're going to put him on TV with somebody who can go, but no rhyme or reason to have him with Roderick Strong in the match. It just didn't make sense on that aspect.
Another thing I want to add too, it's like, nobody's talking about it's not going to be a great match. And this is another one of my points before I have another point after that, is great matches. Like, we all see them, right? Jack, you've commentated for a lot of cool promotions, right? Like Prestige Wrestling, right? Not too long ago. How many of those matches were great matches? Probably all of them, right? So my thing is, if I want to see
I've got a lot of great matches.
If I want to see great matches, I can go to an indie show out here and see a bunch of great matches. But tell me why I should be watching AEW, because what should they be offering more aside from great matches than what we see on the indies? If I want just great matches, fine. Let's do nothing but great matches. Let's cut all the entrances. Let's cut all the theme songs. Let's cut all the segments. Just give me bell to bell, just nothing but matches. No, wrestling is supposed to be a type of soap opera, so it's supposed to be dramatic. And if you just want to see matches, cool. Cut out all the pageantry of pro wrestling.
Well,
I have to mention, though, there was one thing that really irked me during the match, as good as it was, when there was a pinfall attempt during the match. I'm trying to remember. Oh, when he ran him out, when Roderick Strong ran him out into the ring post on the outside, rolled him back in the ring for the cover. They went to an instant replay of that while the cover was happening. Who in the truck called that shot? Are you kidding me? Here's a cover, 1, 2, kick out, but that's in the small screen up at the top, and we're getting the big shot of him getting run into the ring post. That, to me, that's like, what are you doing? Someone please tell these people how to direct television.
Yeah, that's pretty egregious. That's one of the main things is you have to approach every submission and pin as if this could be it, because theoretically it could be it. So for you to be like, we're just going to take a look at a replay while this pin is happening, like, that could be the end of the. What are you doing? That's like cutting to a replay while a guy's on the 1 yard line trying to run it in. Like, don't.
That's telling me he's not crossing the goal line.
Right. So on my end, as far as the setup goes and him asking for a title shot, I think it was dumb too. I don't think it's quite as egregious as it seems to be viewed here. I just think it's kind of dumb, but it is what it is. The thing that bothered me about that scene, for those who saw it, this actually grinded my gears, was Roderick Strong is coming back there wanting the match. The interim EVP steps in the way. He shoves Christopher Daniels out of the way, goes to Tony Khan and asks for it, and Tony Khan gives it to him. To me, this was like the first moment your interim EVP had a moment, and he just got shoved to the side. And they asked Tony Khan. To me, you just told me this guy doesn't. I'm not going to look to this guy to do anything. He just got shoved aside, and someone went over his head. It's like if Nick Aldis day one, someone said, "Shut up, Nick Aldis, I'm going to go to Triple H," and then Triple H gave him what they wanted. Like, oh well, this guy's just a suit. I don't need to listen to him. So that actually grinded my gears the most.
Well, maybe Tony Khan was in fear for his life.
Well, by who?
I do want to add one more thing, because I know Jimmy mentioned this too about NXT yesterday, as we saw Ethan Page come in and demand a title shot. Because a lot of people, when we were going back and forth on the social media, and people were saying, well, in NXT, Ethan Page is going to get a title shot right off the bat. And God, I came up with a response, and I absolutely love it. You have all these AEW diehards that are literally like burying themselves, because in my opinion, I think the AEW World Championship is way more valuable and prestigious than the NXT Championship. I hold the AEW a lot higher than that. NXT in some ways is still a little regional, if you know what I mean. So I'm sorry for holding the AEW World Championship with higher standards than the NXT Championship, for all those people that want to compare Ethan Page coming in and getting a championship match against Trick Williams.
And also, real quick, sorry to cut you off there, Jack, but really quickly here, there was a reason why that happened, because it was written into his contract that if he's going to sign with NXT, he gets a title shot at Trick Williams. And Trick Williams is the one who convinced the GM, sign it, because I want this guy.
GM was saying no. She was like, no.
She was saying no. But Trick Williams was the guy who said, sign it. I want this guy. So you got a built-in story right there. There's your difference. It wasn't just, well, I'll just put him together because he said so.
Well, I do think that what happened here too is, and George, this is to your point, you like story, you like more than just random good matches. They're telling a bigger story with Swerve, and that is he is a fighting champion who takes on everybody and will valiantly defend the title against even the toughest opponents. And Roderick Strong is a tough opponent. That said, too, we've all said, a lot of people said, how come he's not in the main events more often? How come he's not in these spots? Well, here he is in a main event spot.
I love that. That. Her celebrating with the old lady at the end, that to me was the best. Yeah. It really was.
That actually really was a great, a great moment. Them all doing the dance together. That was a great moment. But like, these are things we ask for, and you got to do these because at the same time, I know you say it's got to be a big challenger. It's got to be this big moment. But if he beat MJF tonight, you'd be like, I can't believe he beat MJF on his first day back. If he beat Ospreay, we'd be like, well, why'd they give it away on free TV? Like, you got to have people you can beat that aren't going to be those big pay-per-view matches, and that's what Roderick Strong is.
Yeah, I don't mind the Roderick Strong of it all. It's more so the Kyle Fletchers and the whoever else getting the championship contender matches just randomly out of nowhere. Like I said, I didn't like the reasoning. If it would be a lot better for me, maybe it's too cliche. If Swerve says, you know what, I'm a fighting champion. I wish somebody would have done for me what I'm going to do right now, and I'm going to get an open challenge to anybody in the back that comes out and wants to face me for the AEW World Championship match, and then Roderick Strong comes out. And I think that would just be so much simpler than making it a lot more complicated. And then then what ended up happening.
Yeah, no, like I said, I wasn't a super fan of how I thought it was kind of dumb how it got set up too. I'm not defending that part. I just said it didn't bother me that much. I was just like, that's kind of lazy, but whatever. It gets where they're going. Everyone, let me know in the chat what you guys thought of this one. I thought this was a really fun week of AEW. We're gonna go around the horn in just a second. I gotta get this in though before we do, and that is this Sunday, June 9th, NXT Battleground review show here on Wrestling Inc. If we don't get every single one of you to tune in, we're never doing this again. So you got to tune in. For me and George, it's actually going to be really fun. NXT has been a really fun show lately. So that'll be interesting. Of course, obviously, as we talked about, Ethan Page is going to be there, and Jordan Grace is going to be there, and NXT wrestlers are going to be there also. But before we go, everyone in the chat, let me know your thoughts on the show. And Jimmy, overall thoughts, and where can the world find you online?
I thought it was a little bit of a 50-50. There was stuff I liked. There was stuff that was status quo for AEW, and stuff that I think could have used some tweaking, that's for sure. But the in-ring stuff, mostly Roderick Strong, the ladies, and Briscoe and Cage really did it for me tonight. But as far as where you can find me, here on Wednesdays with you guys, kicking it, on Mondays with Triple J, and the Reffing It Up podcast with my good brother in stripes, Brian Hebner, and RJ, who holds the glue together. This week, we got one half of the fabulous Rougeau brothers, Mon ami Raymond Rougeau. See? I'm learning the accent for my wife. I'm getting it down. And, of course, you can catch my Ref and Rants on all my social media platforms from Monday to Friday. Just giving a little critique here and there, things that I think need a little bit of screw tightening.
And that definitely check that out. Always good to see you on those Ref and Rants. I want to say, I think with AEW lately, it's been very good at layering stories and planting seeds for future stories, which they've been bad at in the past. So I like seeing what they're doing there. George, your thoughts on the show? Where can the world find you online?
I thought the show was enjoyable for the most part. I thought it started off great with MJF. I thought it ended fine, completely fine. I mean, the match was great. I'm not saying anything bad about the match. It's just some of the lead up to the match I think I have a problem with. But the match itself, always good. Again, the ending shot of Swerve dancing with a lady, I think that's everything right about pro wrestling. So yeah, I really can't wait to see. They got some stories kind of in the burner, heating up to see what's going to end up happening for next week. And, I'm all for it. Jimmy Korderas interviewed Raymond Rougeau for Reffing It Up. You can go on the Wrestling Chatter, and Jack Farmer interviewed Jacques Rougeau. So therefore, you got both Rougeau brothers. There you go. We did about a year ago or so. But wrestling is evergreen, so you can always go back and watch interviews that happen, because we're not talking about current stuff. We're talking about the cool stuff of pro wrestling. That's cool stuff is forever. But you can follow on the Wrestling Chatter YouTube channel, TW Chatter, on all the social medias. You can follow me at Hermoza, GHERMOZ, on all the social medias as well.
And you can follow me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. Make sure to tune in to Friday's SmackDown after show here on Wrestling Inc. And follow at Wrestling Inc. for all your wrestling news shows. And again, make sure to tune in on the 9th for After Battleground. George Hermoza and I, we're going to be chatting all about NXT, and it's going to be a fun one. We'll see you guys there. Until next time,